It's a race for your life. Here's your look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, The Flash, and Batman Earth-52. From Earth-42, here comes the fastest and deadliest man in the dark multiverse, the Red Death. A menacing mashup of Batman and the Flash, this dark night came to be when once noble Cape Crusader stole the Speed Force from the Flash, hoping to prevent past tragedies. Clad in red metal armor, this sinister speedster moves like a literal bat out of hell. Before we get down to the review of Flash and Batman Earth-52, the first thing we're going to want to do, as we always do, is figure out how tall the figures stand. Now, I think in a case like this, I might just very well measure Flash, because he seems to be roughly the same height as Batman from Earth-52. Taking the tape measure to the very top of the Scarlet Speedster's head, stopping it right there. According to the readouts, Flash stands 7.066 inches in height. We can switch that to centimeters, so the figure is almost 18 centimeters, 17.9 to be exact. Checking out the figure's accessories, you can't see it right now because they're kind of tucked in the front, but they do come included with their own trading cards. One thing that's nice about this 2-pack is that the trading cards get a nice foil treatment. No conventional trading cards from the McFarlane line generally have a white border. Not this case, Jack. These actually have a nice foil look to them. You can see there's Flash for one of them. And then along for the Batman, of course, there's Batman from Earth-52. Really fun looking cards. I always like when they give us these special treatment cards. On the back, you can see that the character's stats. So for Flash, for example, Flash is number 1, Comics 2016. So this is the current iteration of Flash. Real name is Barry Allen, height 5'11", and weight is 179 pounds. As for Batman from Earth-52, the source is Batman the Red Death, number 1, Comics 2017, real name Bruce Wayne, 6'2" and 210 pounds. Even though this Cape Crusader technically is more of a faster variety, he still manages to pull off a very lean 210 pounds. He's not any bit lighter than that. So they come included with those cards. I always like holding on to those. They also come included with some display stands. Technically, yes, 2 display stands, although I really just held up one of them because they're identical to one another. They're also identical to the same style of stand that we've got with all the other DC Multiverse figures. So there's nothing really different here to report. You see the DC logo down below, one singular peg, and of course those attached to the undersides of both Flash and Batman's feet. One thing that's nice about this particular setup is that they also come included with a display stand, sort of a rock terrain place that you can actually put your figures. My one real issue with this stand, I don't know if you can even see the glaring issue, is that they only have 2 pegs. So you can either display the figures, I guess 1 figure on top of the display stand, or 2 figures, but in real close proximity to one another. At the beginning of this review, in the intro, of course, I had them in a running pose, and I can only pull that off by actually getting the display stands, which I will say at least the display stands sit rather comfortably on top of the place. Like, there's enough flat area of the rock facing that you can still very comfortably put the display stands on there, and the figures won't fall over, as you saw at the beginning of this review. But I really wish that they could have actually added more pegs. So if you did want to have them, certainly one chasing the other like I did, if you had more pegs, randomly placed across the plastic here, then by all means, yeah, you could have easily had them in running poses. But with only 2 pegs here to work from, you really don't have a whole lot of opportunities available. By the way, it is just plastic on the underside there of the base. I do like this, don't get me wrong, and I'll probably just end up using this maybe for another one of the DC Multiverse figures. I don't think I'll necessarily use it for Flash and Batman from Earth-52. So they do come included with that as well. Let's get a closer look at the figures. We'll start first with the Flash. For those that have picked up the single-released Flash and simply just think that this is a repack, not quite there. Actually, this one does have a different head sculpt. The irony to that is, the only reason why I knew that is because I picked up the set for myself just assuming it was going to be giving me the exact same Flash as we got with a single release. And again, not the case. The single-release Flash actually has a noted smirk on his face. Clearly, this one isn't having a big smirk on his face, quite the opposite, really. Now it seems to me that I'm going to have to be speeding my way over online to the place where actually I had ordered these to see if I can still order that single Flash, because I'd love to get myself just a happy-go-lucky Flash, and not necessarily one that is so anguished like this one right here. Don't get me wrong, I like the detailing on this one quite a bit. The only thing I would really say is like the lips are a little on the red side. They actually come across more like blood than anything else. But I do think that that's a stellar looking head sculpt. I like the reflection on the eyes, the nice bright blue eyes. I even like the fact that the one eye is slightly a little more squinted than the other. So it really seems like Flash is really suffering here. The costume design is really a personal favorite of mine. I like the fact that the emblem is raised and you can see that the lightning bolts are projecting out from this. This could have simply been a case where they could have easily just painted this onto the torso, but no, they did actually sculpt it, and sculpt it with some level of depth. So the white in the circle, for example, is a little bit more recessed than the lightning bolt in the outer ring of yellow there. So I really like that. In addition to that, really, all the things that are on this have been sculpted in place, not just painted in place. So like the lightning bolts, for example, on the arms, the lightning on the front of his belt, really all enhance the experience of this figure because all of it has been sculpted in. And like I said, not just painted there. He does have a peg hole in the back of his torso, and I'm trying to figure out why specifically he does, unless it's being used for another figure down the road. Clearly, I can't think of necessarily Flash running around with a backpack on his back, but yet for some reason he's got a hole on the back. Maybe that's going to be used for a cape at some figure down the road. Overall, I'm really happy with this Flash, but again, it only reminds me that I need to now pick up the single release Flash that now has the smirk on his face, because, I mean, it does look a little strange if you don't have Flash in any bit of a pose. If he's just literally standing there, it almost looks like he has to hold himself because he's got a little bathroom. But I do like the figure. I do think it's a nice looking figure. I really love the long stretched out lightning bolts in the back. Knock on wood, I haven't broken these yet, but they are a slightly more pliable plastic. Just be careful of those though. Really some stellar looking sculpting here. If we get a little bit lower down the figure, nice bright colors. I don't know why it is the case here on Flash, but why does he have such noticeable looking bolts running through his feet? This of course gives him the much needed toe articulation, but I understand why the peg, that little post of metal, has to be so predominant. Could they not have actually gone in there and painted it? Not really sure why. It's the first case I've ever seen of a DC Multiverse actually having this. There may be other examples, but this is the only one I can really think of. He has it the case on both of his feet. And they're really difficult feet as well to pose. I don't know what it is. I can't quite get this guy lined up properly. If I think I can straighten out his legs, straighten out his feet. There's something about this peg. I'm going to see if I can maybe twist it and move it around a little bit more. But I can't quite get him fully level-footed. Believe you me, when we have a look at the Batman, it's even worse. That's about as close as I can get it. But like I said, I just can't get that foot completely leveled. Either I shoot it too far, or I bring the foot too far forward that he doesn't. Of course, that he's not flat enough, but I can't quite get this foot angled enough. I'm going to see if maybe I can heat it or something and see if I can warp that into place properly. You can see he also has gestured hands. This figure doesn't have swappable hands. Kind of looks like he's now a zombie. But he doesn't actually have any swappable hands. Doesn't bother me necessarily on Flash. Bothers me a lot more when we look at the Batman. But for the articulation here on Flash, his head rotates all the way around. It hinges down, it hinges up, it hinges back and forth as well. He does, of course, have the arms that hinge out at a full, comfortable 90-degree angle bend. What I like about these so far is these figures have all had really tight joints. I don't think there has yet been a case, maybe there has, and I just can't remember it, whether I've actually had a figure with really loose joints. They have all had really remaining tight joints on these figures, like the arms, especially on Flash here, are nice and stiff. You can see that he does have the cup joints there on either side, so it does allow for additional hinging of the arms back, and it also allows the arms to come a little bit more forward, just, of course, making sure you got the hinge going the right way. So yeah, you could get Flash in a bit of a running pose, like I certainly got at the beginning of this review. I think I'm probably going to ultimately resort in displaying both him and Batman from Earth-52 in some sort of running pose, just simply because the look on Flash's face just doesn't lend well, I think, to the idea of just simply having him standing on a shelf. I think it looks just a little awkward to me. But he does have, did I already say he does have bicep swivel? He does have bicep swivel, double a hinge on the elbow, and then he does have the hand rotate all the way around. I think I started talking about that and got sidetracked as to how I'm going to display the Flash. Upper torso ball joint. He has a lower torso ball joint as well. Legs split out. This whole bottom area here actually does a pretty good job of hiding the joint. I mean, you wouldn't even know it's there. You can bring the legs forward and back. Swivels kind of at the top of the thigh. Double hinge on the knee, a little on the tight side. Again, nothing wrong with that. No articulation from this part because this is literally just a continuation of the sculpting for his calf. But then he does have the foot articulation, which again, I just can't quite get right. I don't know. I'm going to have to see if maybe I can just play around with this a little bit more. And then, of course, he has toe articulation as well. Just, again, really difficult to get this guy properly posed. At the end of the day, I suppose I'm going to ultimately put him in a running pose. And then when it comes to, of course, picking up just a regular release Flash, now I'm going to have to do that with the regular smirking face. I think for that particular Flash, I'm going to just have him displayed standing straight. Or not necessarily in a running pose, like I'm going to go ahead and do with this particular Flash. Next, we'll have a look at Batman Earth-52. Surprising how many people actually just don't say -52. A lot of times just -52. But this is one of my personal favorite designs of Batman. Of course, mixing with the Speed Force gives us the end resulting Batman here. And boy, is it ever a neat looking figure. It does have problems though. Problems certainly would not be the sculpt, because I think the sculpt is really good. Paint is also really good on this as well. Kind of a, I'm not sure what I would describe this as being, almost like a reddish brown color. It's not quite the color of chocolate. It's got a little bit of red added in there as well. But it definitely has some real pops of color. Not necessarily coming from the department of the brown, but certainly coming from the department of this nice metallic crimson red that they put everywhere. There are some little areas, like you can see the spikes on the front are painted in the red. Unfortunately, on the back, they get a little left off. Still, though, a peg hole in the back of the figure's torso. Not really sure why it had to be there. I've also got like a little bit of like a lip of plastic or something right there. It almost looks like a little bit of paint problems that have been left behind. Obviously, it's not on the other side here as well. Love these spikes between the gauntlets and the blades that stick out from the top of Batman's shoulders. He really does look very different. He's kind of got like a medieval look design to him. And also a play on, of course, the Flash's logo. You can see the Bat emblem with a nice lightning bolt down the middle. It almost looks like the Bat logo is fractured. I think that's certainly well played, especially considering the character itself. Nice red there on the front of the torso as well, equally down here on the sides of his legs. Some nice stunning detailed sculpting on the legs where you've got these additional, similar to what Flash would have had, although ironically enough, when you look at the Flash, he doesn't have the lightning and bolts. It's only actually just carved into the plastic of his boots. But when it comes to Batman, of course, he's got a whole bunch of that. He's got 3 of them actually on both sides. These are softer plastic. Just love the coloring of this crimson that they used. My real issue with this Batman is 1, the way he's constructed, and 2, the fact that he doesn't come with swappable options. Big real issue is the fact that it does look like he's supposed to be holding something, and yet this particular Batman holds squat. Or at least he could hold something, but he doesn't come include with any accessories. And then for, of course, the other hand, on the other hand, it literally looks like he wants to give you a high five. Now, it's fine and good if you want to have him like in a running pose. You know, if you want to have him running, that's fine and good. But if you have him just standing in a straight museum pose, that is an awfully flat hand to have to contend with. It just kind of looks awkward, the fact that he does have one hand that looks like it should be holding something, one hand that looks like he should be asking for spare change. But if you have him in just straight regular stance like this, it does stand out like a bit of a sore thumb. The other thing I have issues with is when it comes to his legs. Now, I can't seem to get his legs perfectly straight. My issue with Flash was more for his feet. But my problem here with Batman from Earth-52 is that his leg doesn't stand completely straight. You can see it goes down, it goes in, it goes down. And you're probably asking yourself, well, can't you just straighten out the leg? No, you can't. Unfortunately, because he's got these big, large knee pads, it really limits, I guess, what could have been a perfectly straight leg. It just looks really off the way that it looks. And actually, kind of even looking at it from the front, too, he looks really bow-legged. Of course, this could all be remedied by simply just posing him in like a running pose, which again, I think when it comes to this particular figure of him and Flash, I'm probably going to put them in some sort of running pose. And with the fact that he does have the much needed articulation, yeah, you can get some pretty interesting running poses out of this guy. This is just quickly rushing through. Don't believe that this is what I'm going to be settling on, but just to kind of give you guys a good idea of it. Let's look at his articulation. Okay, so it's basically the same as Flash. His head rotates all the way around, mindful, of course, of the ears on the other side. It hinges down, it hinges up, and again, back and forth. Basically all the same thing as the Flash. He does have the cup socket joint, so it allows a little bit forward and back motion on the arms. You can rotate the arms all the way around. Swivel at the bicep. Double hinge on the elbow. As for the articulation on his glove is part of his forearm. Or if it isn't, it certainly is applied in such a way that you can't really rotate his arm. It's just the way it is. The hand rotates all the way around, though. You can hinge it back and forth. Then when we get to the upper torso is a ball joint, similar to the Flash. Lower articulation on the ball joint there in his lower abdomen area. Legs split out But unfortunately, due to, as you can probably already see here, the sculpting on the tops of his thighs meet up with the sculpting on the lower area of his waist, and results in only the figure being able to do this. Now, you may say to yourself, that's more than enough. And it is really more than enough. Am I ever going to display the figure more than a greater splits than this? I think that even the idea of displaying him looking like this looks probably a little bit silly anyways. The legs, however, do go forward and back. There's a bit of, again, that swivel at the top there. Double hinge on the knee. No articulation on the lower leg of things, but you can move his feet back and forth this way, and you can ankle rock them. Unlike Flash, I don't have any issues with the ankle pivot here on Batman, and he does have the toe articulation. But again, I just want to show you guys here the sides of his feet. Keeping in mind, again, he does have the same foot articulation as the Flash. Different design, of course, foot. But the peg system, you would imagine, would be the exact same. And yet, I don't know why. Flash stands out like a sore thumb or a sore foot. And yet, for Batman, he doesn't have that issue. I don't see any bit of the silver. Do you? Overall, it's a good-looking set of figures. I mean, ultimately, it boils down to... Initially, it boiled down to the idea that I was getting this set for the Batman because I believe the Batman is the exclusive to this set. Of course, then when I got the Flash set and Batman here, let's get his feet completely leveled straight. Boy, that Batman's legs look off. But the real reason, of course, why I want to get the set initially was for this guy right here. I just assumed it was going to be the exact same Flash as we got with the single card release, and this humble reviewer was dead wrong. Dead wrong. In actual fact, it is similar enough of a Flash, but the different head sculpt definitely still makes me want to, I think, beeline it over to an online site, where I think I actually have picked up this set from commandstore.ca. I'm going to see if they actually still have the single card release of Flash available, and definitely will want to pick that one up. This set, I think, is ideal for diorama display, but certainly if I'm just going to have the figures standing straight, Batman doesn't stand so straight, not so easy at least, because he's got bow legs. And Flash looks like, again, he's trying to hold potty. As the Red Death is in fast pursuit of Barry Allen, we can reflect on a pretty overall good set from the folks over at McFarlane Toys. The benefit of this particular set is that you're getting yourself 2 exclusives, which I learned after the fact. It isn't a simple case like the Red Hood that came packed with the Nightwing, because I think that Red Hood was basically the exact same one that we got in the singular release. No. In this case, with both the Batman from Earth-52 and the Scarlet Speedster, you're getting brand new, unique figures that even if you did pick yourself up the standalone Flash, the facial expression is definitely a big, stark difference. The one with the singular release had a big smirk on his face, happy-go-lucky, all the time in the world. And now it looks like time's running out on this particular Flash, as he definitely has a more anguished look on his face. This is a great-looking Flash, not the greatest just to be standing on his own, standing straight on a shelf, because it looks like there's something not quite right there. If you have him in a running pose, that's a completely different story altogether. And then, of course, the exclusive of this set as well is the fact that you get yourself the Red Death, Batman from Earth-52. A great-looking figure, sculpted pretty good. He has some difficulties, of course, with bow legs and hands that make him kind of look like he always has to be in a running pose. He doesn't come with any sort of accessories, even though technically his hand looks like it should be holding something. Definitely, I think in a case like this, is figures that I'm going to be displaying like you're seeing right now. I may tweak the pose on them just slightly, but I'm definitely going to be having them in a more running pose than having them standing straight. If I want to have my Flash standing straight, then I will be picking up that standalone Flash, because I definitely want to still be adding that one to my collection. What do you guys think of this particular set? Have you picked it up for yourself? Or if not, let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think of the Flash and Batman from Earth-52. Also, if you're new to this channel and you're enjoying all the content you're seeing, because we do certainly post a lot of content as of late, make sure if you are new, though, you're hitting that subscribe button down below, you're turning the bell notification on, and yeah, by all means, come back to this channel Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Not only are we going to be looking at more DC Multiverse figures, but we're also going to be looking at more McFarlane toy figure reviews as well, so there's always stuff to come back to this channel for. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.